Welcome to Beyond the Riverwalk, the local weekly podcast that brings San Antonio's most remarkable people, places, and events directly to you. All links discussed will be in the show notes, so sit back, relax, and join Kevin and Melissa Barron as they ask the questions that you would. Now, let's get the conversation started.
Welcome back, everyone, to Beyond the Riverwalk. This is Kevin, and I've got Melissa here with me.
Hi, guys.
We are really happy to be joined by Dan Ward. Dan is the owner of CraftCruiser.Tours here in San Antonio. And recently, Melissa and a friend got to go on one of those. They had a ball, and I was stuck at home watching the photos pop up on Instagram, unfortunately.
I made him very jealous.
Yeah, but it looked like a lot of fun, and I have a feeling we're going to hear a little bit about that and also have a little bit of fun in this conversation. So thanks, Dan, for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I like I said earlier, I've been looking forward to this and had a chance to meet everybody for a quick second last week and seemed like really fun people.
Well, good deal. One of the things I guess we wanted to start with was just a little bit about you. I mean, people want to hear about the tours, I'm sure, but talk a little bit about your background, how you got into what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the beer stuff itself, really for me and my company, we like to have a personal touch. So if you do come on a brewery tour, you're going to know a majority of what's going on in my life. I like to learn what's going on in your life, just so it just sparks conversation down the road, because it can be awkward going on a brewery tour with public people that you've never met. And, one conversation can turn into a friendship forever. So it really, but my background personally, I come from West Texas in the oil fields. Ever since I graduated college, I went to a small school in Angelo State in San Angelo. And once I graduated, my family, we're just a bunch of oil field workers, and I got a job, fortunately, working with my grandfather. And I just did that for a very long time. And then I started to think maybe I should use this little degree I got here, and I decided maybe to try to start coaching football. And went around, tried doing that for a while, and then I just missed the field. If anybody listening, then they work in the oil field, they definitely understand what I'm saying. Playing sports my whole life, being a part of a team is a big deal. And in the oil field, you're just as much as part of the team as you are on a football team. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the oil field. But then about 3.5-4 years ago, the field crashed, and my company let a lot of people go. And I was fortunately for me, to be honest with you, I was one of them. And that's how I got the chance to start up CraftCruiser. My wife surprised me with a birthday party when I turned 30 about 4 years ago, and we went on a brewery tour. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. We went to I think it was Blue Star, Busted Sandal, and Ranger Creek here in town in San Antonio. And, I just thought to myself, with the personality that I have and the love of craft beer that I have, I could, this could potentially turn into a business. And I fought with my wife a little bit about it. She told me I'm crazy. I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And, I just kept on pressuring her. I said, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And finally she caved in. And, that was 3.5 summers ago. And now we're the number one brewery tour company in San Antonio. We're proud to say that. It's a lot of work to get to where we've been. I think we've serviced a little over, for the public tours, I think we've done a little over 700 people in the 3 years. And then with the corporate tours, which we'll talk about later, we've done probably around 4,500 people on those. So we've had a pretty good span of 3.5 years. It's very intense when you first get going, as any young business owner knows. It's just one of those, you just got to jump into the deep end. I always tell myself, if I would have known everything that it took to get this business going back when I started, I honestly probably wouldn't have done it, because it's just an everyday grind.
Yeah.
But y'all probably know that I looked y'all up a little bit and got some history on you. Y'all have done the food tours in the past, and I mean just going to the restaurants and writing all the reviews, talking to all the people. That is very strenuous. And with the brewery tours, I mean, it's kind of fun because we get to deal with beer, but it's more, I look at it as more of a business. I mean, the getting to know the brewery employees from the bottom to the top is really what it's all about for me, because when I walk into the brewery, I want to be able to look at everybody and say, I know him personally, I know her personally. This just isn't a, hey, let's get everybody in here, get them drunk, and then leave. It's more of a real personal touch on that.
Well, it sounds like you've been able to take something that you really enjoyed and actually turn it into not only a business, but something that you still enjoy. So has any of the daily grind you talk about, has any of that taken the fun out of it? Or are you still excited to find new places to go and to meet new people that you bring on the tours?
The daily grind is actually, I love it. I really, really love it. I mean, honestly, if I'm going to work and I'm going to grind like this is the best industry to do it in. I have friends who sell computers. I have friends that, are different kind of businessmen, like they sell solar panels and stuff. Now that's a whole nother kind of grind. With brewery tours, it's more about, just making sure everything's organized, making sure if it's like a bachelor party, like next weekend we have a 60th birthday party for the ex-governor of New Braunfels, and he's having I think we're looking at around 40 people for that tour, and to pretty much plan that out takes more than say we're just going to go to 3 breweries. You really got to lock down every single aspect of the tour, from what kind of beers they're going to sample to where the tour is going to be, to what times we're going to be at each brewery. And then you coordinate with all the breweries to figure out if they're going to have events, if it's a good time, if they're anticipating a big crowd. That usually doesn't do too well with the brewery tours because it affects my company and the brewery, and that's the last thing that we want to do. But to answer your question, the daily grind, I love it. There's nothing better than getting on your phone on Monday and you got 7 emails wanting to, schedule something for a month from now.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be pretty cool. When you're setting up all these things that you mentioned about having to, basically all the logistics, what's the scale of the organization you've got now? Because you can see from the photos that people can follow you out there on Instagram, for one, like we were doing that, or I was doing when Melissa was on the tour. You've got this really nice van that they were on, but it sounds like with these larger groups, you can handle much larger groups. So what's the company like? How are you structured to deal with all that?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. So I have a business partnership with Regent. We've been working with them for about 3 years. They have the 55 passenger charter buses. So they have a really cool program with me where they reserve a bus for me every weekend. And then I call them on Wednesday and I say, hey, I don't think I'm going to need a charter bus this weekend. And they release it. So I can take on a group on Monday. If you call me on Monday, I could take on a group of 55, no problem. And that's really hard for most companies because a lot of these buses in San Antonio, especially the wedding season, they are booked up, they're gone. So that's one big advantage with me. As far as the organizational skills, I'm still working on that. Coming from the oil field, that wasn't a priority, to be honest with you. But, I try to bang all the emails out right then and there. My response time is critical for me because I will forget, to be honest with you. We're so busy with real estate and CraftCruiser and a 1-year-old, it kind of gangs up on you. So if you email me, I try to respond almost immediately. And I kind of gave my own game plan, honestly, on my organization skills. I've thought about taking some classes. I'd probably really benefit from that. But as far as the organization, I really just play it by ear. Like this past week, we had a corporate tour on Wednesday of 55 people with Spectrum. That was planned since, I think, October. So when we do those corporate tours like that, it's very intricate. We had a catered company come out, Smoke Shack in town, if you ever had those. And there are some foodies. If you haven't had those guys, they're phenomenal. But yeah, so the organization is definitely probably not my best suit, but I'm definitely getting better at it every day.
Well, one of the questions I had that I was kind of interested in hearing a little bit more about is when you have folks coming, I mean, people will come from out of town, visit the city. You've also, like you talk about, having local corporate groups that get together and do things. But what's the mix of patience? Listen to me. What's the mix of I work in the healthcare industry. I don't know if anybody knows that, but you do now. I was thinking of passengers, but what I really mean is customers, I guess. So what's the mix of customers in terms of, are these folks that are really deep into craft beer, or are they just really looking for a good time? What's the level of knowledge maybe that they're coming into it with, and then what do you think they're getting out of it after?
Okay, yeah, that's also a great question. So really funny story real quick, and then I'll jump back onto that. So I had a group, we're really fortunate to live in San Antonio. The Henry B. Convention Center draws a lot of conventions in the town. And there was this convention of technology from China. And they called me up. They had a representative call me up, and they translated. We did a brewery tour, and we did 50 people. And I got to tell you, not one person spoke to me the entire time. So you really get a whole spectrum of people. They're interested in the craft beer. They really like to see the chemistry and everything that happens behind the closed doors, before it comes out the tap nice and cold. That's really what a lot of people are interested in. But that group from China, when they came in, they decided, they really didn't know what to expect. And on my tours, it's unlimited beer. We offer unlimited half pours throughout the day. So when it really blew me away that they didn't want to drink, they just wanted to kind of see San Antonio. So that's another way to figure out, how to get another perspective of San Antonio. So, but as far as the information, we go on a one tour throughout the 3 breweries that we stop at during the day. And the reason we do that is because it gets really complacent. No matter how large your system is, how medium-sized or small, it's really the same process throughout the day. So we go through one. We normally do it at Alamo. They have a really nice wide open brewery where nobody's going to trip over anything and fall and hurt themselves. So we'd usually do it at Alamo. It usually lasts around 15 to 20 minutes. They'll answer any question you have. The brewing process is really unique. Just like, brewing tea or anything like that, you can really mess it up pretty quickly. So, or you can just be really, really good at it. So that's just one of those things. And then I'd say our demographic is probably, being our tours are $85 a person. Our demographic is probably in the mid 30s to the late 70s. We've had a 90-year-old on the bus one time, and he was awesome. I couldn't believe how much fun he was having. So our demographic is pretty wide open. We do get a lot of beer nerds for sure, but then again, we get the people from China that they just want to experience something different in San Antonio. So it's very broad, very way out there. And most of the public tours, at first we're at Pizza Italia, we're enjoying themselves. No one's really talking to each other. But by the second brewery, everyone wants to hang out. Everybody wants to take pictures together, and then I'm getting invited to barbecues by the end of the day. So it's really interesting.
When you were saying the people from China didn't want to talk, we talked Mike's ear off last Saturday.
He enjoys to talk. He's also a bartender at Big Hops, so he's a big talker.
We thoroughly enjoyed our tour. And you're right. The first tour, people are kind of talking with the person they're with, and after you've had 2, 3, 4 half pours, then by Freetail, we were all talking to each other and posing for pictures.
Well, that's one of the things I noticed is what was popping up on our Instagram. I was like, well, who is this person she's in the photo with? Because it looks like they've known each other forever, But I guess that does bring up a question. So you talk about going to the various places. I know you work with a lot more than 3 breweries, though. So how do you select which ones you go to, and which are some of the ones out there that you find people enjoy the most going to?
You're gonna get me in trouble me saying doing that, but
there's a big list. I'd tell people.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Go to the website for the full list, right?
There you go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I'm pretty biased towards a couple. There's only a couple breweries we don't work with, just because they don't accept brewery tours. The crowds that usually in the past would generate with brewery tours, and I say that in quotations because my groups are completely different. We feed people before the brewery tour. You make sure that they get a big full tummy before they go and drink at 3 breweries. In the past, there's been other companies that, they try to cut corners and not feed people, make sure that they really didn't care how much water intake they have and stuff like that. So those other companies that I don't go to, they don't take brewery tours because of bad things in the past. But the ones that I do go to, I love them all. Honestly, there's something I love at every brewery. For instance, Busted Sandal is 100% veteran-owned brewery. Those guys all have full-time jobs. I think there's only one, maybe two guys, Adrian and their brewmaster, that actually work there full-time every day. Everybody else has a full-time job and comes there after their job and brews all day, cleans the floors, does everything. I've seen the owner literally pour beers, wash his hands, go mop the floors, come back, make sure everybody's got a beer, pour another beer, and he's just Mr. Do-It-All, and I just love little things like that about smaller breweries like Busted Sandal. And then we go over to Alamo. Like, for instance, today at Alamo, they probably got 500 people over there. They're shaving everyone's head for cancer. I think they're raising money for breast cancer or some sort of kind of cancer. But it was really cool. There's women, children, everybody's lined up to get their head shaved, and it's pretty cool. They raise awareness. And then at Freetail, Freetail is pretty cool because they have a brew pub on 1604 as well, where you can go in there and watch games, the pizza and of course their Freetail beer. But then I take people down to the production facility down on South Presa Street, downtown. And that's really unique because I love the modern graffiti that they have in there. When you first walk in, they have probably, I want to say, 5 stacks of barrels that they age their beer in. And that's the first thing everyone always asks me when they walk in, what are these barrels for? And I'm like, I love to talk about that. That's, they put their beer in there and they age it in there so the beer will taste similar to that barrel. And they're just blown away. They're like, what? So it's, and I like to think after they're done with this tour, they expand their beer knowledge and they have, hopefully they start buying local stuff. Because that's one thing about my tour. We don't go to any conglomerates, even as far as our food. We the restaurants that we use, they use all Texas-bought grains and doughs and all that stuff from Pizza Italia is all Texas-bought. Most of the breweries, I'd say 99% of the breweries that we go to buy all their grains from Texas. Of course, you'll get some small batch stuff that people try to get exotic with, and they'll buy some hops from another state, which is fine. But I try to stay with companies that support local Texas all the way. But yeah, I mean, that's just one of the small aspects of San Antonio between all the breweries. I think by the end of the summer, we're going to have around 21 breweries in full operation. And when I started, I think we had 11. So in 3.5 years, there really has been a huge blow up. And I'm counting a little bit of New Braunfels over there as well with that 21. But it's good for my business, but at the same time, you take it with the good and the bad. You figure out these smaller breweries. Like there's a really cool brewery off of O'Connor and 35. So if you live on that part of town, there's a lot of breweries on that side of town, but there's one in particular called Isla Street. I went over there yesterday and I had a beer that just had so many flavors in it. I could not even explain it to somebody. They got horchata and just thought they take that Mexican culture and they put it into a fantastic beer, and I appreciate it more than ever.
That's pretty neat. I mean, there's so much to get into, I guess, and it's still growing.
Oh,
and so
we could talk literally for hours about one brewery, probably. But I mean, we got, for instance, in San Antonio, we have the first female brewmaster here in San Antonio, Vera at Kunstler. I think y'all went there last weekend. She is phenomenal. She's a firecracker. I love her. She's my type of person. And being it was Women's International Day yesterday, I bet they probably brewed something just all women. I love how they do that kind of stuff. And then we got the first African American brewmaster in San Antonio ever, Marcus over at Weathered Souls. I mean, those guys are just killing it. They're probably the most recognized brewery right now in San Antonio, just because they're doing a lot of collaborations with other breweries in the state of Texas. And really looking forward. Freetail has won a gold medal for one of their beers at this event called Great American Beer Festival, where hundreds and hundreds, probably even thousands of breweries get together, and then they judge on styles. And Freetail actually won for their La Muerta Stout not too long ago, like 2 years ago.
Well, it sounds like people need to just come to the city to visit and just do this. I mean, you could probably spend a week going from place to place, learning new things, and just completely be, like you said, in this beer nerd mindset, right? Because there's just so much to do and learn. Well, on the tour that Melissa did, I just kind of let folks know. I mean, they started at Pizza Italia, had a big lunch, like you said. She said the pizza was great, and she's nodding her head over here. And then went to 3 different breweries, and that was from I guess about what is it, around 11:30 ish lunchtime to I think y'all ended up about 5, something like that.
Yeah. Ended up about 5.
So we typically, to get everybody signed up, get the waiver signed, all that little small stuff that we got to do before the tour starts, we'll get everybody at Pizza Italia and let everybody talk to Larry. And Larry's a hoot. I love that guy. He keeps the energy up over there at Pizza Italia. And they also have 30 craft beers on tap and then another 300 to choose from there as well. So that really fits in with the business model and what we're trying to promote. And then from there, we're usually there about 50 minutes. So we try to get out of there, 11:50, 12, and then we'll head over to Alamo Beer Company. This is in particular the tour that y'all took last weekend. And then from there, we'll get there about 12:15, 12:20, and then we'll be there for about an hour and 15 minutes. It's unlimited half pours, so you can go get as many beers as you like at each stop. And then that's where we'll do a tour, and that typically would last for around 15 to 20 minutes. Unless you got, Mr. Craft Nerd that's been brewing beer in his garage for the past 6 weeks, and he asks, 40 questions, and it's going to go a little bit longer. But we always like those guys. We kind of pick on those guys a little bit because they come in with all this beer knowledge, they're assuming, and they walk out and they're like, I don't know anything about beer. So it's really cool to see those guys. What's that?
I said that the group that we were with, there was one couple that was from Dallas and another couple that was from North Dakota. And the North Dakotans, the gentleman does his own little, home brew thing. And he asked a few questions, but he wasn't the total beer nerd. He was just trying to get information for himself, and the rest of us were just along for the ride.
Yeah.
And the beer.
It's fun to listen to their stories, though. I mean, my grandma and grandpa, they like to just do crazy stuff. And I think that's where I got this entrepreneurial mindset from, because my Nana, we grew up in a really, really small town of like 300 people called Forsyth, Texas, right outside of Big Spring, Texas. And she opened up a soda shop. And then we're talking late 80s, early 90s. And at the time, that was probably the dumbest idea of a town of 300 people. But by the end, it was all said and done, they had it for almost a decade. And it was the most popular little soda shop in the area. So that's not because it was the only one. It was just more about the family atmosphere that they brought out. So I just like to hear the stories like that. As far as that guy brewing his own beer, who knows? He might have his own brewery in a couple of years, if his wife will let him. That's the hard part.
There's a little bit of investment involved, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So y'all you went to Alamo, and then where was the next two that y'all do for that typical?
Oh yeah, then we went to Freetail. Freetail is where I kind of put it in neutral as far as a tour guide and an operator. I kind of like take a step back and allow everybody to just kind of look around and just have a good time. And if you're with somebody, if you're celebrating a birthday or something like that, I'll take a step back and just be like, hey, enjoy your time. We're going to be here for an hour and a half. There are some tour guides that kind of like in your face, kind of, uncomfortable at sometimes. But at first you have to be like that because you kind of got to set the rules. You kind of set the tone for how the brewery tour goes. But then after we get to Freetail, I kind of put it in neutral. I allow everybody just to be themselves and have a good time. And then that we're usually there for about an hour and 15 minutes. And then we'll head on down to Kinsler Brewery, where I was telling you about Vera. They've been around. I think they're going on 2 years real quick. And they're awesome people. They actually have a really cool story. They tried to open up a brewery called San Antonio Brewing, but somebody, they had all the equipment, everything was set up, and then the city came back and said, hey, actually somebody owns that name to that brewery. So they had to restart everything all over from the ground up, and they ended up with Kunstler Brewery. And I know you didn't get to go last week, but you should really get over there and check out the food. It's a very unique part of town. There's actually a brewery right at the end of the road, so if you want to kind of brewery hop right there, it's very easy. And then once we're done with that, we head on back to Pizza Italia, where we drop you off at your hotel downtown, and it's pretty much that's that. I mean, it seems like it goes by fast, but it's actually a pretty long day from 11 to 5. You're with us.
It went by really fast because we all had such a great time. And we did go to Kunstler, and I had the big Emma. So.
Oh yeah, that's her daughter's name. So yeah, that's another thing about Kunstler. I would probably say out of 15 employees, maybe less they have, I would probably say 90% of them are all family. So that's one of the few breweries that I've come across where it's all family. So that's really cool in my book.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Well, I guess how do those tours differ from the corporate side? Because I mean, it sounds like you could probably do a customized. And I mean, I'm just guessing here, but what have you done, I guess, in terms of those bigger groups, and how much can you customize given the schedules that the breweries have?
Right. Yeah. So typically the corporate tours are during the week. So I'll call and reserve the brewery pretty much to themselves. Like this past week, I'll just walk you through the tour real quick. What we did this past week, we picked them up at their Hotel Valencia downtown at 2:30. By 2:45, we were at Alamo Beer Company. We had the entire brewery to ourselves. We played beer bingo. We played 4 rounds, and they gave away prizes that the company provided. And that was a hit. I got to say, that was a lot of fun. So you just sit there with your beer and you play bingo, and, time flies by. And then there's also recreation there. And I kind of set it up so as soon as everyone walks in, because it's typically around 55 people per group. When everybody walks in, I'll have a beer sitting there waiting, so nobody's standing in line. I take everything, all the stuff that you normally would have to deal with at a brewery, where you're standing in line, waiting, asking everybody, where do I go? Where's the restroom? This and that. I take all that out of it. As we're walking in, I'll say, there's the restroom. I'll have 55 beers sitting there waiting on you. So you just go grab a beer. And while you're drinking that first beer, take a look around, figure out which beer you want on your next round. So, you don't want nobody standing in line waiting for 15 minutes. Even the fastest bartenders can't get 55 beers poured out to people who don't know what brewery they're walking into. So I typically get their best-selling beer, and I'll just lay out 55 beers. They'll come in, grab it, and it's usually a hit, and then they'll come back and get the same beer most of the time. And we do that at all 3 breweries. And then right after Alamo, we went to Freetail, and we did a really cool tour from their head brewmaster over there. He went very intricate into it, had a lot of questions over there. And typically he doesn't do the brewery tours at the actual facility, so that was a treat. And then from there, we went on down to Weathered Souls, and we had a catered dinner from Smoke Shack that they had 3 meats, 3 sides, 2 desserts, and unlimited beer and wine. And it doesn't get any better than that.
They've probably got some pretty loyal employees at this point, huh? You think?
Oh, definitely.
They're loving that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you've seen it grow, I guess, and you talked about the time you've been doing this so far. What do you see changing, if anything, going forward? It sounds like there are going to be more breweries coming, but are you doing anything different, or are you expecting anything different for your business?
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I was kind of contemplating if I was going to, say what I'm about to say, but we actually got a really large announcement as far as my company. I am transitioning to all my customers meeting me downtown instead of meeting me at Pizza Italia. Pizza Italia and we still have a great relationship. I'm always going to use them. But unfortunately, they're on the north side of town off Thousand Oaks and Jones Maltzberger. And a lot of my customers are coming from the downtown area. So it's a 20-minute drive over to Pizza Italia. So I'm just going to transition to all my customers we're going to meet down at the Growler Exchange, and they have a brand new location over there off Filter Brand. So it's only like 3 or 4 minutes away. It's 1 minute away from the Pearl, about 3 or 4 minutes away from some of the other breweries that we go to. So I'm really looking forward to that. That is something that it's been in the back of my mind, because we have over 110 5-star reviews, and the only thing I've ever heard from anybody was the ride to Pizza Italia was a little long, and I'm just like, how do I fix that? It burned in the back of my brain. And then finally, my good friends Joey and Joey, father and son, they opened up the Growler Exchange downtown, and one thing led to another, and we're going to start doing that in April. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that will make it a whole lot more convenient for people visiting the city.
Absolutely.
We live kind of on the eastern side. I work on the west side of the city, so I'm constantly going right by downtown, and you can see that is, it's really kind of the nexus of all the traffic. So no matter where you live, that makes it a whole lot simpler, I guess. Well, the other piece... go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but just, going back to the downtown aspect of everything, a lot of people, when they travel 3 or 4 hours to get to San Antonio, they don't want to get in their car again until it's time to go home. So there, you got with the Riverwalk and everything, you can just kind of gradually walk wherever you need if you're downtown. So I really think that this is going to benefit us in the long run, no doubt about it. So, and it helps another business in town. And what more could you ask for with that,
Yeah, the collaboration makes a lot of sense, it sounds like. And
Absolutely.
The other question, I'll let Melissa talk a little bit about this one, but she mentioned to me, because, it's it's expected that the person I've been married to for almost 25 years, it's hard to believe, is already hinting about her birthday in the fall.
In September.
September. Wow. So she's saying that you guys do wine tours. Is that kind of a side thing, or is that just kind of a special occasion thing?
Yeah, we kind of evolved into that. We get so many phone calls because of the Johnson City wine miles we got over there. I don't know the exact name they call it, but I think there's 180 wineries in like 15-mile radius between Johnson City and Fredericksburg. It's insane how many wineries are right there. So it's very popular. It's actually more wineries than Napa Valley, believe that or not. And so, yeah, we've there's so many companies that do that, and they're all booked up. I said, you know what, why not? We'll just charge our non-inclusive price, and, y'all kind of buy your own wine throughout the day, and we'll provide the transportation and pick up drop-off for $35 a person, and, you have the van as long as you need all day.
That's cool, because my birthday's in the beginning of the month, and the friend who came with me, her birthday's the end of the month, so we're thinking the middle of September of booking a tour like this with our girlfriends.
Yeah, you know what? I would recommend if we do go out that area, we stop at Stop Brewery. It's a brand new brewery that they just built, and it's a Bavarian castle. I might be saying that wrong because I just don't even know what that is, honestly.
Bavarian?
I saw it.
I think I've seen the
Bavarian, yeah.
Bavarian. So cool.
It is so elegant. They actually have probably the nicest setup I've ever seen in my life at a brewery, and that's saying a lot. My 1-year-old son has been to almost 30 breweries, and so I know my breweries, and this place is probably 5 stars, 5 diamonds, whatever you want to say. It took them around 3 years to build the thing, and it is just take a peek at that if you wanted to plan around. We could stop over there and always throw a brewery into a wine tour if I can.
Oh, absolutely. That sounds like a plan. I'll be calling you soon.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I went back to the office the next day after the weekend and mentioned it to one of my coworkers, and her birthday is the day after Melissa's. Or the day before. Okay. Yeah, the day before Melissa. Yeah. So she's like, well, maybe we need to do this together. So you may get a little bit of business out of this. We hope anyway.
Hey, why not? I mean, the beer and the wine speaks for itself. Honestly, I just got to sell myself to people. I mean, y'all are going to drink the beer and wine no matter what. It's just what company you're going to use, So.
You want to learn a little bit. You want to have a good time. You want to spend time with people that you enjoy being with, meet some new folks you haven't. And, I mean, I'd call that a pretty good day, one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, like I was telling you when we first started this, I mean, for me, it's about that personal touch. If I'm on the tour, I'm going to know your kids' names by the end of the day. That's just my thing. I got to know what college your kids are going to, where they plan on going, So other companies, they kind of just take a step back and just drive you and say, all right, I'll see you in an hour. That's the last thing you'll ever see me do. I don't think I can stay in the car for an hour.
I know what you mean.
Hang out.
I know what you mean. Well, before we wrap it up here, can you tell us where everybody can find more information, the website, where they can find you on social media, and where they can get any questions, I guess, they may have for you in follow-up to today? Yeah,
absolutely. Like I said, my email that you can contact me at is at contact@sacraftcruiser.com. And you can also go to our Facebook, Instagram, even the Twitter. I'm pretty active on the Twitter for sports stuff, so if you shoot me a tweet, I'll see it. But it's all at SA Craft Cruiser. And then my phone number is 806-535-3863. Don't be afraid of the 806. It's just a West Texas thing. I've had it forever. But yeah, you can contact me any way you want. You can shoot me a text. Give me a call at 11 o'clock at night. If, you're traveling internationally and you're looking for something to do, I realize the times are different over there, so don't hesitate to call. for as far as information, I would love for people to call me. That we kind of have to limit what we put on our website for a couple of reasons. People steal business models all the time, so you kind of got to be smart about how you promote your stuff, what breweries you're going to go to, and all that. So if you give me a call, you'll get the most information, but you can definitely just go to our website, look at everything. If you click on breweries, you'll see that our lineup of breweries that we do attend. There's a couple on there I need to throw up on there, and you can see a gallery of photos of people, seeing them having a good time. It's just basic brewery tour stuff, and our calendar's at the bottom of the brewery page, and it's pretty easy.
Well, and you've been recognized, we saw on the website itself. I don't know if you mentioned, I'll mention it again, but it's just CraftCruiser.Tours, right?
Yes, yeah, it's CraftCruiser.Tours. We had an old website at SA Craft Cruiser, and I've had it redeveloped. So if you go to our old website, it will shoot you over to our brand new one real easy. But yeah, it's just it's CraftCruiser.Tours.
Well, and I would encourage people to go check it out. Go see the list of the breweries that you guys go to. The photos are great. It's a really, really good looking website. And then the other piece of it is just all the recognition, the media recognition you guys have had. You've gotten some great coverage, and we just appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and have a little bit of slice of that to learn a little bit more. We appreciate the hospitality and inviting Melissa and a friend to attend, because they really did have a ball, and we will be calling you about the fall. That's for sure.
Well, I look forward to that, and if I can ever help anybody else out there, if there's anybody out there that they're having a hard time affording something for their son to graduate, or they're having a hard time paying for a bridal party or something like that, give me a call. I've been in that situation in my life in the past where you can't pay for so much up front. And I don't have a problem helping people out. That's part of owning a business. You jump hurdles one day at a time.
That sounds perfect. Well, thank you very much, Dan, for being part of this. We're going to get the episode posted. We'll put all the links out there to the things that we talked about, and definitely to your connections and your social media stuff and the website itself. And if you ever have anything new you want to talk about, we will be available. Just give us a holler, and we'll hopefully see you around town.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good day. Cheers.
You too. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Riverwalk. Send your comments, questions, and suggestions to podcast@beyondriverwalk.com. As always, subscriptions to our show are free and available wherever you find podcasts, as well as on our website. Until next week, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more conversations about our community.